Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode. Getting ready to bring you my home GP. In today's episode, we are here in the Canadian Grand Prix weekend in Montreal, one province over from my home province of Ontario. But it's not a far drive for me to get this track. I think it's about 5 or so, maybe 6 hours to get here. Hopefully next year when we have this track back on the schedule, I can actually go to the Montreal GP, but we'll have to wait and see. But coming into this race weekend, we've had quite a bit of stuff going on. Azerbaijan, and we finished in the points for the first time in our career here in our rookie season. Got 4 points on the board after that weekend, so I was very happy with that. So we come into the race stuff, looking at the monitor here, and it was looking pretty good with the weather. Qualifying was going to be nice and sunny on like Azerbaijan, but as well in Azerbaijan, it rained in qualifying, which actually allowed me to get to Q2 for the first time in my rookie season because we just kind of went out at the right time, basically when it was starting to dry up just a little bit. But the weather, I have it on approximate, I don't have it on exact, and it was giving me about 21% chance of rain in the race, so I didn't know what that was going to mean going into the actual race. If you might see a little bit of a sprinkle at the start, we'll have to wait and see. But you can see the R&D, we've gotten a little bit ahead of Williams now and are trying to close the door on Alfa Romeo, but it's getting very tough to stick with them. So we got some more R&D upgrades though on the way that we are looking forward to quite a bit. So hopefully within the coming weeks here, that is going to help us out a lot and get us close to Alfa Romeo, maybe even get up there to AlphaTauri, Ferrari if we're really lucky now as we come through though into this first and opening practice session on the weekend. And I've been getting more and more confident with the car as we've gone on here for Haas. Now, we started practice one. It was raining, so I didn't get a great feel of what we were going to have. I actually make a mistake there. I ended up spinning out the car, but we would continue and just get more wet racing experience is what I was trying to do. This wasn't going to mean anything for our race, but I just want to make sure I get comfortable with rain racing as much as I can. But it dried up later on in the session. You can see 43 minutes left and the track was already dry. The sun was coming out, so we were making now some of our real legitimate laps that are going to count to getting comfortable with this car and getting coordinated with it to set us up for qualifying and the Grand Prix. And it felt great, to be honest with you guys. Last episode in Azerbaijan, that was the most comfortable I have been with the car so far. And that's not what led to get us points, that we just got lucky with the safety car. But this weekend here, I was feeling even more comfortable than what I was in Azerbaijan. So I was feeling so excited for this Grand Prix. Obviously, it doesn't mean we're going to go out here and get points or anything, but just overall pace felt better now. As practice 2 actually just went through and did the quick practice stuff. And then in FP3 I would actually make a few more laps and whatnot just to kind of get a baseline of where we're at going into qualifying. So one of my favorite tracks on the schedule, of course, too. A huge fan of this course. It's just so much fun to drive. It's got its technical parts, especially with that last chicane, but it's just overall a fun racetrack to get around. So we come through into the end of FP3, and this is where we were. We are actually about a tenth off of our teammate of Mick Schumacher at the end of FP3. So that would lead us now into qualifying, where once again, thank goodness it is nice and sunny out here, so we know we at least get to just see what our overall pace is going to be here today against our teammate of Mick Schumacher. As you see myself putting my helmet on there, I want to actually get a modded helmet here as soon as possible and actually base it off of my YouTube logo somehow, so hopefully we can pull that off at some point. Now I actually had to reinstall the game recently because I was dabbling in the whole modding scene and I was messing with decals stuff and I completely broke the game, so I had to reinstall it, but it's all back to normal now. So we come through into our qualifying lap, though not expecting to get out of Q1, to be honest with you guys. I knew that we have made enough upgrades, I think, that we can be in the mix, at least myself and Mick Schumacher can, to get into Q2 instead of having no chance like a few episodes ago. So we come through a little bit later now, ending our first lap, and I got through that final chicane pretty well, I felt like, and we come through to cross the line, and it was P17, 2/10 below the cut line, and Schumacher was 16th, so a little bit later on in the session, I would make one final attempt here to hope not necessarily get into the Q2, but just beat our teammate of Mick Schumacher really was the goal here. So This next attempt was going quite well for us now. So we were in the green. I was going down into the red right there, but through this hairpin right here leading into this final sector, I got through there really well, gained almost 0.2 of a second, and then by the time we came through to cross the line, it says we were in the red, but no, we were well in the green. A tenth and a half we gained, still coming up less than a tenth short of our teammate of Mick Schumacher. So I decided, you know what, we're gonna make one more lap and go for it. And I gained a lot of time there, but I ended up losing time later in the lap, and then you can see it was pretty much dead even just about compared to my last lap. So unfortunately, we do not beat our teammate of Mick Schumacher, but we are both very, very even going into this race weekend. I think this is going to be the closest battle we've had with Mick all season long, both within the same tenth of a second as we get ready to go green here for the Canadian Grand Prix for our home race in Montreal. Hopefully we can finish up towards the top 15. That's kind of the goal. We'll see what happens now as we're going to send it over to David Croft.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's one of the fastest races of the season here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 60% of this 2.7-mile circuit taken at full throttle. There are 14 corners to navigate, the very last of which has its very own infamous history and could be the cause of a safety car today. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn one. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and will start from pole position. And Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Bottas, Max Verstappen and Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Vettel and Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Tsunoda, Lance Stroll and Ocon, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher and the rookie, Russell and Nicholas Latifi. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
There you have it. You see Lando Norris qualifies on pole for the second race in a row. He won his first F1 Grand Prix last episode in Azerbaijan after qualifying on the pole, like I said, and just dominating that race. There was a lot of drama, of course, with Bottas, Charles Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel all being a part of an incident. And now that leads us into the Montreal GP now as we're getting ready to go green. Like I said, obviously don't expect the greatest finish here, but I think we're going to have an all-around tight battle with our teammate of Mick Schumacher. So both myself and Mick are starting on the medium compound. Nobody else is. Everyone's either on soft or the hard tire towards the back, but myself and Mick are the only ones on the medium tire. So same strategy pretty much for us now, as it is 5 red lights. Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton lead the way to the green flag, but it's a terrible start for Lando. Lewis Hamilton gets a tremendous start now as Verstappen's going to go 3 wide into turns when he gets hit by Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. He went sideways. He makes a tremendous save right there, but there was some damage to the Ferrari of Leclerc. Valtteri Bottas got some damage as well, and Daniel Ricciardo even picked up some wing damage. So the McLaren, the Mercedes, the Ferrari all struggling here on this opening lap. Now as you look through a little bit further down the field, we'll have some additional angles to look at on that start here in just a few moments time. But now you see the Alpine there making a move up the inside of Tsunoda now, as you can just see the lack of pace in the McLaren of Ricciardo right now. Leclerc was dealing with that wing damage, and so was Valtteri Bottas. So they're going to have to pit at the end of this first in opening lap already. Their race is already in jeopardy now, as Lewis Hamilton had just an unbelievable start compared to Lando Norris. Norris just did not get off of the line very well whatsoever. So this leads us down towards the hairpin. Now you see side by side between Carlos Sainz as well as Max Verstappen there, as we now go down into the hairpin, and I was side by side here with Schumacher. Unfortunately, I lost a ton of grip on exit, couldn't quite pull it off, but now running P18 here as we go down this back straightaway. Just behind, we had Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, who is beating his teammate of George Russell, who is on a way harder compound, of course, than Latifi is, so he should not be in front of Latifi anyways right now, based off of speed. But Ricardo, Bottas, as well as Charles Leclerc, they all come into the pit lane here at the end of lap 1 to replace their wings. So very unfortunate start for those guys. Like I said, we're going to get another angle right here of what happened on the start. So here's Lewis Hamilton, who just obliterates Lando on the start off the grid. Unbelievable how bad he got going right here. He actually gets hit from behind, so Lando fortunately doesn't pick up any damage. But here is the view right here from the Ferrari of Leclerc. So you see Verstappen takes a 3 wide, and then Leclerc sticks his nose up right there, clips Verstappen, sends him sideways. That's where he got his wing damage from. Here's Ricardo, who also did not get off the grid well. A little bit better than Lando, but not good at all still. So he got taken 3 wide into the corner, and you saw his wing damage right there. And then Bottas as well picked up that little bit of wing damage. So they were all in the pit lane, like I said. Now at the end of this first lap, here's a replay of my start. I actually make a big mistake right here, get taken 3 wide by both of the Williams of Latifi and Russell. We actually make our own bit of contact, as you saw there with the warning, and then a little bit right there. But fortunately for me, I did not pick up any front wing damage. So we would actually get back past him right into here. I made a big lunge up the inside, and then I was able to get the grip down compared to Latifi, who was already at a disadvantage with that angle, and I was able to get back in front of him. So now we cut back to what's going on live right now with now Leclerc, Bottas, Ricardo putting new wings on their cars. So they are going to be in need maybe of a safety car if they want to get back into this race. And we've only had 2 safety cars so far this season. Of course, last episode in Azerbaijan, we had one there. Now as we come through to the end of the second lap, and there was a bit of a checkup right there. Giovinazzi going at it against his veteran teammate, world champion of Kimi Räikkönen. He lunges up the left-hand side. Myself and Schumacher just kind of following in behind, letting them just kind of sort it out, because didn't want to add on to the just craziness right there. Just wanted to let them get it sorted out. We come through now to lap 5, running in this 15th spot to set my fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. And now we were well ahead of the Williams duo of Latifi as well as George Russell. But now Bottas was moving his way forwards pretty quick up to P17, only 3 seconds behind us now. As it appears, we have a caution up in front of us. It's for the Canadian of Lance Stroll, another guy in his own Grand Prix, just like myself and Latifi in the Aston Martin. His engine has given way now. As you can see behind us, there's a battle coming up from behind with Bottas, Latifi, and Russell, and a huge incident right there. Latifi plows into the back of Lance Stroll. The safety car immediately will get deployed here as he is out along with Lance Stroll from the session. A massive shunt right there. We're going to get an immediate look at what just happened right here. Here's from George Russell. So you see right there, Latifi is about to attack Bottas, but then Russell, he looks to the left-hand side. Latifi's stuck on the right, and unfortunately, he just drives right into the back of Lance Stroll. Unbelievable. Here's, Lance right here, his onboard. He's over to the right side. He has no idea that's coming. He gets driven over. Very, very unfortunate. So now, at the end of this lap here, as we're still catching the safety car, a bunch of drivers decide they're going to come into the pit lane. Myself and Schumacher still on the mediums. We stay out, and now we're up into P5 for the restart here. So obviously we are going to be losing spots like crazy now as we would get back going. Lewis Hamilton leading the way back to the green flag with Lando Norris as well as Max Verstappen up there in 2nd and 3rd place. So we get back underway from P5, and we have some pit stops coming up soon for both myself and Schumacher. So we're just trying to survive as long as we can, and hopefully, if we're really lucky, at least remain into the top 10. But right here you see Perez not wasting any time in the Red Bull. He goes on by there. I almost get into the back of his gearbox right there. Thank goodness we did not, otherwise that would have led to some wing damage. Now Valtteri Bottas there in the Mercedes, he is going to go by there as well, take over 6 places. We went into the hairpin. Then on lap 10, they're going at it in front of us as Pierre Gasly is able to get by myself Schumacher right up there in the mixes. There's a bit of a lockup from Pierre Gasly there in the AlphaTauri. So I was trying to do my best to stick with Schumacher, but we're just constantly getting out of the way for some people. So it was kind of hard now to remain in that fight. Now is actually in the back of the field. We got more issues for the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda, a fellow rookie. He has actually got a puncture in his left rear tire, so he's going to be coming to the pit lane this time by. Very unfortunate for him. Now is actually just behind us. You can see 3 wide. Sebastian Vettel forces it 3 wide into turns 1. That's going to push both the Williams and the Carlos Sainz Ferrari wide. Sainz came to a complete stop right there, rejoins the track, and now Vettel gains a few positions. What a Grand Prix so far. This has been Aston Martin involved in all the action so far. Here's an onboard look at what Vettel just did right here. He takes it 3 wide, a very deep dive into the corner, and just kind of decided to take the whole corner essentially there. And that was unfortunate right here because you see Russell was already making a move. Didn't expect that. He got into the left rear of Sainz after getting pushed wide already by Vettel, and Sainz got the worst of that, of course, as he would rejoin back on the track in front of Tsunoda, who was way back from his pit stop now with that punctured tire. Now is a little bit later on lap 11. All of a sudden, I'm right here in the mix against Schumacher as well as Gasly, who had been taking an extra bit of time to get past Schumacher, so that brought me right back into the mix here. And now we're side by side here out of the hairpin with Mick, and now we're going to have that ERS here on to overtake. We're going to have some DRS as well, but it's going to be a side by side battle. Now it's a game of who's going to lift first into this final chicane. I didn't want to be the one, but we were further back, so I let Mick have it. Now that's just only common courtesy there. If the guy's got the nose on you, it's his corner in my opinion. So now as we came through to lap 12, there you see the Alpine of Fernando Alonso, the 2-time F1 world champion, go by there on the hairpin. So we jumped down into 9th place, and then a little bit later on lap 13, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari working his way back forwards after that wing damage on lap 1. He's up to now 9th place, and Sebastian Vettel was right on my gearbox now, so I would let him go by on the left-hand side. Leclerc goes a bit defensive there and actually allows Vettel to go alongside him. So now at the end of this lap, though, I would come in to make my first pit stop of the day. So we get into the pit lane a little bit cautious. I've been very, very cautious into my pit entries this season so far. I need to try and gain a little bit of extra time going there with my braking. So I was honestly waiting. We've had, I think, 2 or 3 races already this season. We've had Jeff come over the radio and tell us there's some type of engine issue. We haven't had an engine failure or a mechanical failure yet, but I was feeling it this whole Grand Prix. I was like, this is going to be the Grand Prix. My home GP and my first rookie season is going to be the one where we have some type of engine failure before this race comes to a close. So I was just waiting on that message, but now a lap later, Schumacher, he had come into the pit lane coming out now, and we actually were able to barely, just ever so slightly, beat him out, and now we take the position from him. So the undercut works in our favor, and now actually I get in the grass a little bit now, make the front tires or left side tires a little bit dirty, but fortunately didn't impact us too much. So now running here in 15th place, and it felt kind of weird because I felt like we were running a tremendous race now. And by the way, Jeff came over the radio when I came into the pit lane. He was telling me Mick was having some engine power issues. So Schumacher was off the pace because of this, and that was allowing me to pull even further away now as we come through to lap 20. Daniel Ricciardo and the McLaren coming out just in front of us there. He is another guy that had those issues on lap 1, had to come in, get the new wings. So of course he's not having the greatest race now, as we also pass Giovinazzi as well as Carlos Sainz, as now we move up into P13. Then lap 21, we make some more passes for some drivers on the pit lane, including Esteban Ocon there in the Alpine. So now to lap 23 in this race, everything had finally just kind of calmed down. Lewis Hamilton was leading the way over Verstappen. Lando Norris and the McLaren was all over the gearbox of the Red Bull driver, and then he had Bottas there in 4th, a nice rebound for him. Perez just coming out of the pit lane there in the 5th spot in front of the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. We go down to Fernando and Vettel, who are having one beautiful scrap right here for 7th and 8th place. And then you, of course, got Daniel Ricciardo, Charles Leclerc not far behind him, and then, of course, myself as well as Esteban Ocon, who's got Schumacher, my teammate, there right on his gearbox. Schumacher, at this point, his engine issues were finally starting to get resolved, so his pace was starting to pick back up now, as you see George Russell down there in 17th place, still beating Tsunoda, who's still trying to make up for that punctured tire. He is at least lucky that that tire puncture came on the back straightaway now as it came through to lap 24, and there goes Esteban Ocon there, just cruises on by. I have nothing for him. Now as I make a bit of a mistake there, some grip loss, too much curb. Now is actually, now a lap later, George Russell actually is out of the Grand Prix. He is done, and that takes both Williams cars out there. Just a mechanical failure on his car, and very unfortunate for George now with 11 laps to go in this Grand Prix. So now to 10 laps to go. Carlos Sainz there in the Ferrari was running us down pretty quick, but we come into the pit lane for a second stop on the day. Schumacher is going to once again do an extra lap here. So we get pretty well into the pit lane once again, but still just a little bit too cautious, and I always feel like I'm giving up too much time when I do that. But we decided to put on the soft tire for this final pit stop here, getting us ready for a now 10 lap scrap to the finish. So overall, we don't really have a whole lot of competition left other than this guy right here, a fellow rookie of Yuki Tsunoda, who we come out in front of. But the Alfa Romeo cars, they were already too far ahead, and they have a little bit too much pace in their car. We're not going to have much for them. And then, of course, the two Williams are out. But Tsunoda's in a unique position. You saw Schumacher, he had just come into the pit lanes, but you see Tsunoda not wasting any time into the final chicane, blows right on by, takes the spot. But we have an advantage. We have a softer compound, as well as he's been on that medium tire ever since he came into the pit lane for that tire puncture, and he's going to the end of this race. So we have a chance here to still get Tsunoda, and we're going to prove that because we come through the final chicane now a lap later, and here we are all over the back now, coming to lap 29, looking to the right hand side of Tsunoda down into turns 1. Schumacher just about 2.5 seconds behind here, as we're still side by side through turns 2, and sure enough, right here we throttle up early. Tsunoda remains side by side now, as we're going to continue this side by side scrap now as we get very close with him, push him a little bit wide, we get clear, we take over P15 from Yuki Tsunoda, but that allowed Schumacher to cut the time down really well. And now to lap 32, and Tsunoda was just falling off so hard on that medium compound that was already way more worn than both myself and Mick's soft compound. So Schumacher gets past Tsunoda and now was running me down very quick here in the final couple laps. Just over a second between the both of us now, as Lewis Hamilton was approaching the final lap here in this race now. As we came through to the final lap, of course, less than half a second between myself and Schumacher. He had the DRS advantage that allowed him to get really close. But here's Lewis Hamilton out of the final chicane. He's going to rebound after 2 consecutive DNFs to win in Montreal. Lando Norris got Verstappen for second. Verstappen rounds out the podium. It's going to be Bottas as well as Perez there, 4th, 5th, Gasly down in 6th. And then you see Alonso and Ricciardo currently 7th, 8th, Vettel rounding out the top 10 as we come through late on this final lap, and Schumacher continuing to close the gap. I was just saving my ERS here to use that overtake button down this long back straightaway out of this final hairpin. So overall, I mean, it felt like a really good day for myself in terms of pace and just for the team. But we obviously don't have it represented the best here with P15 now, as we have overtake on, and Schumacher just isn't able to gain enough time, thank goodness here. But both of us, like I said in qualifying, we were going to be very even in this race, and sure enough, myself and Schumacher within half a second by the race coming to an end. As we get P15, Schumacher gets P16 here. What a race it was for us in our home Grand Prix. P15, but overall, a great race driven by both of the Haas drivers, as we also get driver of the day, which I was really happy to see now, as we have some post-race celebrations to do for Lewis Hamilton.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So 5 races complete here in this rookie season for us with Haas, and Lewis Hamilton won the first 2, DNF'd the last 2, and backs it up with a win. So far this season, he's either won or he's DNF'd, basically. So Lewis Hamilton is going to be able to take the championship lead back after that. Just tremendous effort from him here in the Canadian GP, and he got that off of a beautiful start against Lando Norris, who just struggled so hard on that initial start. Ricardo, of course, struggled as well. He bounced back to P8. You see right there now, Verstappen 4 points behind Hamilton. Bottas 14 out. Lando Norris moves up to 4th over Perez, and he is now 17 points out, but he is really starting to move his way forwards, and I would not count Lando Norris out of this championship battle yet, but of course, it's still too early in the season to really determine what it looks like now, as we would have Claire come up to us in the paddock after the Grand Prix just to ask us a few questions like, does the pressure get to you when you're back home? Not really. I think it just pushes us to get the best out of things. So overall, I was really happy with this home Grand Prix. I feel like we just did a really good job, and I hope you guys enjoyed the effort from that one. As she asks, it's safe to say you're smashing everyone's impressions or expectations, isn't it? And yeah, F1 is a team sport was with what I went with there. And then she asks about the contact we had with Nicholas Latifi, and said no one is at fault. We're both great drivers. Sometimes things happen. It was a start. It was really hard there. We were 3 wide between both Nicholas as well as his Williams teammate of George Russell. So that does it for this episode of the F1 2021 Career Mode. We're going to put some new engine parts and stuff in the car just to make sure we got a fresh set of things going into the next episode, so you can see some wear here on the engine. We definitely don't want to forget to change this. In the last game, I didn't do a lot on YouTube, but I had a lot of issues with forgetting to change parts, and then I would regret it in the race because I would have some type of loss of power or something. So in the next one, though, we go to the French GP. Very excited for that. Of course, I'd like to say thank you to the Goen Racing members of MJ, Joseph 9001, Timothy Arline, Bubba Jr., Bert Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, AG Vasura, Russell Dixon, Kenneth Barnett, Dana9302, King Matt XL, Speed Demon 341, as well as Illinois Diecast. I appreciate you guys' support so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.